welcome back to this week's episode of Outside the Arena. I'm Griffin Senek, joined alongside my co-host Devin Bernstein, and we've got a new World Series champion. It's been a great week in sports. The Texas Rangers won their first World Series in franchise history. The James Harden saga finally over. The NFL cruising along as it does. But before we get into anything, just want to say if you're new to the channel, looking at some of the analytics, a lot of our watch time comes from non-subscribers. So if that's one of you, make sure to drop a subscribe. I feel like that doesn't sound good. Make sure to subscribe.
I
We'll
like
go
it.
with that. Drop a subscribe. Why not? We greatly appreciate it. Trying to get to 100 subs by the end of the year. I think we're 18 away now, so we're creeping close. So, yeah, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe for the best weekly content in sports, if I do say so myself. But jumping right in, we're going to talk about the World Series first. MLB season came to a close last night as this was just a dominant performance from the Rangers throughout the World Series. They win 5-0, win in 5 games. The pitching for them was just phenomenal throughout. Nate Eovaldi, 6 scoreless last night. Marcus Semien, home run. Corey Seager wins World Series MVP. At one point, this Rangers team was collapsing during the regular season, now World Series champions. Your thoughts on the series and just this Rangers team as a whole? I mean, just a special group of talent.
Yeah, I mean, we doubted them. I doubted them from the beginning, but they just kept on going, and this lineup just proved to be as elite as it showed at times in the regular season. We can't even say the whole regular season because, it graded out very well, but there were times, like you said, where it looked like they were one of the worst teams in baseball. Like their bullpen was bad. The starting pitching had fallen off, and the lineup wasn't as hot anymore. And it's like, it's incredible to see a team go through this many ups and downs in an 162 game season, kind of barely fall into the playoffs. And then, just get hot at the right time. Like Corey Seager is incredible. We've seen this like twice before, but really every time he's in the playoffs, like he can be dangerous at any time. And outside of him, everyone just overperformed, it seemed like. We talked about Evan Carter a little bit. He had a pretty great series as well. Obviously, Adolis Garcia was incredible until he got hurt. And then, we can talk about the lineup as well, like Semien getting hot, the back of the lineup being really good as well. But what really stood out to me was the starting pitching and the bullpen. I mean, this became like a 1-2-3 in the bullpen that no one wanted to face. We saw Andrew Heaney just eating up innings like a monster. Like, I don't really like. I guess I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but I know most names, and Andrew Heaney is not a name I've heard too much. I mean, his stats aren't bad or anything, but like for him to perform, it's just like that's a luxury that not a lot of teams have. Like you see the Phillies going into Craig Kimbrell, who's one of the most known closers in the game, and he just like can't get it done at all. And you see some of these guys for Texas that are, I'm sure, being paid nowhere near and are not even close to as well known as a guy like Craig Kimbrell. And they were able to reform. Even Chapman, who like it's a bit of a roller coaster every time he finds his way on the mound.
Yeah.
He like he was doing pretty well. I mean, there's not enough you can say. And like this Rangers team kept strong. They didn't really trash talk that much, which I kind of respect because even the Phillies at a certain point, it felt like everyone was being too cocky, and then that kind of derailed them. And then saw Gallen tweeting, or I mean, he obviously performed really well last night, but like he tweeted something about like making fun of Phillies fans. It's just like, dude, why are you doing that? You're in the World
Yeah.
Series. Like,
Not to be able to mess with either.
also, yeah. Even if you were right, why are you messing with Philly fans? Like, that's not gonna end well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those are my takeaways. Like, props to the Rangers. You'd love to say like there's no reason they can't do it again, but it seems like in baseball, like something will happen. It just seems like they only can get better from here. I mean, is DeGrom supposed to be back by the beginning of next year?
No, not the beginning. He could be out all of next year,
Oh, okay.
because this is his second Tommy John.
Second.
But
Yep.
I was reading something yesterday where since it's been so spaced out, they think maybe middle of the year to late end of the year. I don't know. He definitely won't be back till like middle of the
Okay.
year at earliest. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So I guess that's less of like an upside than I kind of was thinking in my head, but still, like, I don't think this team has anyone that they're probably going to be losing that's super important besides maybe like a Chapman. Um,
Yeah.
but I think he's really just like a piece that you can definitely replace. And mean, they were the best team. Like they just were dominant. I mean, the Phillies had this great run of dominance through the first, up until game 2 of the NLCS, but then they really went cold, and it's like the Rangers were just able to keep their momentum going throughout the entire series. They got this done early. If Arizona wins a game, like we've seen Arizona do this before, like you don't want to have to go back to Texas if you don't have to, and they didn't have to, and they did. They did their job. So hats off to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Texas was what was it, 12-0, 11-0 on the
Yeah.
road, something like that, which is just crazy. I mean, they truly played perfect baseball essentially throughout the playoffs. I mean, it was remarkable. You lose Adolis Garcia, who was their best player in the ALCS. Not that they still have it. That lineup is stacked. I mean, they had like 5 or 6 All-Star starters in there for a reason. Like it was an all-time, not all-time, but a really, really good lineup. But losing him, obviously Scherzer, he was pitching really well and is starting the World Series. He leaves early out for the series and just didn't matter. This team wasn't going to be slowed down no matter what they face. Um, that lineup was just too deep, and their kryptonite late in the season was that bullpen, and the bullpen played pretty well throughout the postseason. They pitched some damn good innings. Jose Leclerc was great throughout it all. Chapman a little shaky, like you said, but they figured it out. And hats off to them. I mean, look, it's a little weird if I'm being honest, seeing Scherzer and DeGrom go win World Series rings in Texas when they were the aces of the Mets last year. It's a little weird, a little unsettling, maybe. You could say I'm a little salty, but look, I can't be too mad. It's I don't know. Rangers fans like is it it's I don't want to call out the fan base, but it's like I don't know. Is it like a super diehard fan base? Like I'm not sure. I feel like it's just like kind of in a low key spot where it's like not the main team in town, but it's like there's probably some pretty big fans, but I don't know how crazy the fan base is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. That's a good point. They're not like known as one of those fan bases. Like, yeah, I haven't heard much like talking
Yeah,
at all throughout the playoffs from any Rangers fans, which like I respect, but maybe they're just not out there like Chargers
yeah.
fan. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't I don't know, but regardless, seeing a team win their first World Series in franchise history is pretty cool. So, um, yeah, man, that's baseball. I mean, a crazy World Series matchup. I don't think anyone would have predicted that. The amount of money you would have probably made for predicting a Rangers Diamondbacks World Series, like if you parlayed that, that had to be like wild. But yeah, I mean, hats off to both those teams. I mean, incredible season for the Diamondbacks. Obviously, just kind of the bats ran out of juice. It felt like towards in this series. I mean, they had some moments, but yeah, it's tough. Zach Gallen. I mean, he 6 no-hit innings yesterday. Shout out to him. I mean, pretty incredible. But yeah, shout out to Texas. That's kind of all I got to say. I'm excited now. MLB off season. My Mets are back alive now. This is where we thrive is when we spend our money. So and then when we actually play baseball, it's terrible. So I'm gonna enjoy these next 3 months while they last because once that first pitch is thrown by Kodai Senga on opening day next year, it's all gonna go downhill. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna enjoy my real season starts now. So
yeah,
I'm excited.
yeah. You want to talk Harden?
Yeah, yeah. You can. Why don't you? This is your thing, so you just go right into it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so well, let's just talk terms a little bit. So it was Harden for Nicholas Batum, Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, KJ Martin, a 2026 first, a 20
Yep.
or no, sorry, 2028 pick swap that's likely going to be somewhere in the 20s for the Sixers just because like 4 teams, the worst of those. So it's unlikely that all those teams are bad, basically. And then in 2028, I think it's unprotected from the Clippers, which could be super valuable. Obviously, it's 5 years down the line, but with the age and current construction of this team, you'd rather a pick 5 years down the line than right now from them. So that's going to be a very valuable asset. And then a couple of second round picks and maybe some other I forget exactly what the details were, but some other picks and things to
Yep.
entice the Sixers. And um I guess I'll talk about the Clippers first. This is this is like the last move you could like. They're all free agents after this year. Harden, Westbrook, Paul George, and Kawhi. You know, it they this is now like now they've traded a ton of picks for Paul George, and now they've kind of traded the few picks that they've kept / gotten back over the years. Like now they went in again for Harden, and it's just like I get it, and I probably would have done it, but in a vacuum, it's like this is the guys like you're wasting all your picks and probably ruining your future. Like even if this team is to win a championship, let's say, or two, they dominate the NBA for the next few years. I mean, there's no world where they're gonna still be good in 2028. Like there's just no world. The only world is one where they start the rebuild soon and then get good enough by 2028. But that's gonna be hard to do. They don't really have any of their own picks, so it's almost hard to see a world where this 2028 pick isn't of some value to the 76ers. Um, but of course, like they got rid of clearly the best player in this trade. So it makes sense. Like, all the Clippers guys were available for the Sixers tonight, but didn't play. I don't expect that to be the case, but I think none of them are going to start. It's possible, Marcus Morris and Covington aren't really getting minutes on a regular basis. My guess would be Batum does, but even that doesn't seem guaranteed at this point in time. So it really just seems like the Sixers were trying to get off of, PJ Tucker has money for next year. And basically everyone besides Joel Embiid is not under contract for next year, giving the Sixers, somewhere between 1 and 2 max spots. Is much more likely that they'd go for, a max free agent, re-sign Maxey, and maybe another guy or two for some money than it is that they get 2 max guys and somehow keep Maxey, although I guess that's theoretically possible. We're looking ahead very far in the future, but there are some notable free agents. Like LeBron has the ability to opt out. There were some rumors with him in the Sixers in the past. Both the
He's
Toronto
coming
guys.
home to
Yeah,
Cleveland.
he's coming home. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess that's not crazy either.
No, I don't
We
think the
don't.
Cavs have any money. They're going to be
That's
so
also
tied up.
that is definitely an issue. That's an
Yeah.
issue. So that's probably not going to happen. But
No.
then there's guys like Klay Thompson. There's some names I'm forgetting, but Drew Holiday is a guy who the Celtics may not be able to afford as the new CBA kind of imposes these restrictions on the high spending teams, which is definitely going to be something like to monitor as the NBA, calendar continues to go. Like in this offseason, are we going to see the high spending teams kind of have to shed some money in a way that we don't really see the contending teams do? But I'm going to get back to the Harden trade. So for the Clippers, my first question would just be, who are you starting / benching? I mean, in theory, before the Harden trade, the lineup was pretty clearly, in my opinion, Westbrook, Paul George, Kawhi, Terrence Mann, and Ivica Zubac. But now it's like, are you bringing Westbrook back off the bench when he's been good as a starter and has probably earned a starting role, but the fit's not necessarily great? And like, so Harden and Westbrook defensively, that's obviously a challenge at this stage in their careers, and just in terms of like too many guys that want the ball a ton. And so it really kind of forced Paul George and Kawhi into these more like off-ball roles, and they're going to have to be the main defensive guys, obviously, if Harden and Westbrook are starting as well. So it's not the best fit, but again, it's like you get the thing you really needed, which was a great playmaker who can set guys up. I think Kawhi and PG. PG is a really good off-ball player. Kawhi is as well. Westbrook's turned into a good cutter and like almost like a supercharged like Bruce Brown type role player at this point in his career, which this is kind of what he's needed to buy into for the last 3 or 4 years. And now, he's lost a lot of his actual ability, but he's still a good player. But, you wonder what would have happened if he could have bought into this maybe 2 or 3 years ago when he was still probably an all-star level player. But, he's probably still a solid player. There's some potential for his value to kind of fall off a cliff with Harden here. And if that happens, you just kind of move him to a bench role and you say, all right, we're Harden, Paul George, Kawhi, and a bunch of wings. And I think that's a really good formula. And I think the PJ Tucker addition adds some versatility for this group. He can play the small ball 5. He can start if you need him to kind of take some defensive matchups in certain situations, like the Suns. Like, do you want him to start against a Durant? Like, that could make sense. So I think the Clippers have everything they need, but it's the health and it's the fact that the Nuggets exist. And I'm still probably taking a healthy Suns, a healthy Lakers, and a healthy Warriors over this team. Like, I'm going to be honest, I think it's very possible that if they stay healthy, they can compete with anyone. I'd have them in that top tier of those 5 teams in the West. That would be my top, tier of teams that I think could maybe win a championship. But they're just the team with the longest odds. I mean, their best player can't stay healthy, and their second best player can't really stay healthy, and their third best player has forced his way out of 4 teams in the last 5 years. So there is some disaster potential, but if I'm the Clippers, I'm going down swinging with this era. It hasn't worked so far, but you have to do everything you can to win a championship. That was your goal when you traded for Paul George and signed Kawhi in kind of one swing, and this is the type of risk you need to take if you want to win a championship. I kind of touched on the Sixers a little bit, and I don't want to go on for too long about this because I really don't think this ultimately is going to be a championship. But I have gone on for a while, so just some final thoughts on the Sixers side of this. I think this really shows a commitment to Maxey and his future and his development. I like the way this team is playing with Nick Nurse. I think there's potential for a second move where it's like maybe Batum and Covington or Batum and Morris or 2 of these guys, and whatever, you can kind of match salaries however you want to get to whatever number you want with this team. You can even trade it to Tobias Harris, who's on a $40 million expiring contract. You can kind of do whatever you want. And whatever that is, someone is going to become available. I mean, if we've learned anything in the NBA the last 5 or 6 years, it's that stars are going to be available. And this team has set themselves up to acquire one, and they ultimately needed one, after seeing last year, like Harden wasn't good enough as a second option, and maybe Maxey can develop into that, but then you need a third option, and this is a star-driven league. You need to get stars, and I think they're setting themselves up as well as they can to do that, maximizing Joel Embiid's prime. I think they're gonna give it their best shot, and then if it doesn't work out, you can fall back on trading Embiid and building around Maxey, which I still think is maybe the most likely outcome in the next 3 years, just because it's super damn hard to win a championship, and it feels like the Sixers are gonna have to shove all their chips in at some point. And if that doesn't work out, you're almost left with having to trade Embiid. But again, we're talking far in the future. I've gone on for a long time about this, but I think a mutually beneficial trade for both sides. And I think, good compensation for the Sixers and a good risk for the Clippers.
Yeah. I mean, I won't say too much. I mean, I think you covered it as well as anyone out there possibly could. But yeah, like you said, like the Clippers, they're kind of in the spot where like I think there's some Clippers fans out there that are probably kind of pissed off about this because Harden's obviously a diva. I mean, look, the Sixers had him on a leash. He's not a system player. He's the system. So maybe it was all Philly. It was all Philly. We haven't seen what Harden can do at this point. He is the system. So he's going to go right into LA with Kawhi and Paul George, and it's going to be his offense for sure. I don't know, man. This guy is just. I think his reputation is not great at this point, and probably rightfully so. I mean, obviously, I don't want to make any personal judgments on the guy, but I don't know, man. It's just this just spells disaster at the end of the day. It's already been a disaster though, so honestly, like the Clippers have nothing to lose at this point, which I think is why they had to do this deal. You gotta, like you said, like go out swinging, and that's what Steve Ballmer's done. I mean, credit to him. This team, like, they have all the talent in the world on paper. Like, this should be a good team, and will they get it done? Probably not. But maybe they will. Maybe they'll shock us all and really turn out that it clicks. Who the hell knows? For the Sixers, I mean, obviously, disappointing end to the Harden era. I think a lot of fans were very hopeful when that trade went down, and obviously a bit of a tough pill to swallow. You get some picks back. According to Flight Reacts, you get a bag of chips, a half eaten thing of French fries. I was watching some clip on TikTok of him reacting to the trade, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, maybe a few of those guys can help contribute this year. KJ Martin should be a pretty good player. I feel like
Yeah.
he's got some potential. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, like building towards the future. But obviously, that team's still going to be competitive this year. Do I think they'll win the NBA Finals? Do I think they'll compete for an NBA Finals? No, to be honest. I mean, they haven't done it the last few years, so I don't think it's probably likely this year. But look, you gotta respect what they're doing. I think they did pretty well for themselves, to be honest, in this trade, getting the picks they did. compared to some of these other trades we've been seeing with some of these superstars, like, you know, compared to the Dame trade, I mean, I guess you trade Drew Holiday, but like, for how much better I think Dame is right now than Harden, like the Sixers did pretty well in comparison. So credit to them. Obviously disappointing, and to what was seemingly so hopeful, but look, that's just I've seen that happen with the Nets. So I mean, I feel your pain, Dev. But look, you still got arguably a top 5 player, one of the best players in the NBA, and Joel Embiid. So this team's still going to be good. Maybe they can make. I mean, at the end of the day, we've seen what happened with Nikola Jokic. Like, I'm not saying that the Sixers are built like the Nuggets, but you never know. Like, all it takes is like, could Maxey and Embiid be the next Joker and Jamal Murray? Like, it's I don't think they'll be as good, but it's not crazy. Like, it's like
Yeah.
feasible that they could be, well coached, and they've got some pieces around them to make it work. So, I think this team will still be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we'll move on in just a second here, but like I don't think the Sixers championship odds got much worse here than
Nah,
they would have been. Like, in some world where Harden is happy or just says, I'm going to play my hardest no matter what, like whatever. Say that did happen. I really don't think
if he
this team.
was the system in Philly,
Right,
then you
exactly.
would have been. It would have been a ticker tape parade. It would have been amazing.
um, but I just don't think that that's much of a contender either against the Bucks
Yeah,
or the Celtics. So it's like, do I think the chances are great? No. But do I think there's some world where Embiid, finally has this great playoff run and Maxey looks like a great second option and, maybe a trade is made to get a good third or fourth option? Like, absolutely, that's possible. Like,
yeah,
anything can happen in the NBA, whether it's just a run to the conference finals, which would mean so much for this team that hasn't made it there in my lifetime. Like, that would mean something for the Sixers team. Especially, with an offseason where the team really can only get better and Maxey can only get better from this point. And, next year it seems like things can only be better after this. So it doesn't seem like the, sunshine and roses in Philadelphia, but I think there's some potential to, right this ship and, really figure it out here.
yeah, 100%. So obviously, be very interesting to see. I think more so how the Harden
Yeah.
and that whole combo works out. I think Philly, we've been seeing what this team will do. They're going to be a good team no matter what. So yeah, I think it'll do it for that. Obviously, as the NBA season kind of keeps going along, we'll obviously keep following up, talking about the latest storylines. But we are going to jump to the NFL. Another week in the books. As we're filming this, it's currently Thursday night. The Titans Steelers are at halftime. Titans winning. Real quick, I mean, Will Levis's debut, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, he really impressed. I think that was a huge game for him. I mean, it looks like to me, there's no reason why he should not be the starter the rest of the way in Tennessee. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on his debut?
Yeah, he looked really good. Taking shots downfield, avoiding the rush. His arm just like really popped
Yeah.
as one of those arms that's like, okay, this guy's like really got an arm to compete out here, make any throw he wants. And he had more touchdowns last week than Tannehill had all year. I think that kind of says for itself. I think I talked about it maybe off the pod. I forget exactly what the situation was, but I talked about how I ended up in a situation where I was defending Ryan Tannehill. And I'm not some Tannehill hater, clearly, but you just have to go with Levis. Like you said, he showed potential and just, I think every time you get one of these, traitsy developmental type quarterbacks, it seems like NFL Twitter kind of takes a victory lap no matter what happens. And it's like, if they don't work out, it's like, all you saw was the tools. You're just trying to get the next Josh Allen, whatever. He's never good at football. And it's like that, we see that starting to happen with like a Fields or like Malik Willis, who it's like that's probably true with Malik Willis.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing, but it's like, it's either going to be that or they do work out like a Mahomes or a Josh Allen. It's like, well, yeah, they were just way too talented. You had to take them. It's like they're like obviously it's really hard to figure out who's just a project that has talent and who's gonna figure it out and be really good. That's the job. That's one of the toughest jobs in the world. People, even the best people, can't do it consistently. So I just don't like how it feels like the discourse on Levis is like, when he was in first round talks, it was like, well, you just think he's Josh Allen. It's like, no, like he's very talented. He has the potential to develop in a way that Josh Allen developed. and then he falls to the second round. It's like, well, no, you had to take him way higher. It's like, what's the middle ground? What can you do right? So that's my little daily vent on NFL Twitter. But yeah, I just sky's the limit for Levis, and now the Titans are like exciting because their defense is pretty good, and like they have Hopkins and Henry still, so it's like they could not this year probably, but next year it's like they're not one of those boring teams we don't want to talk about anymore.
Yeah, the future seems bright with Will Levis. I don't really got much more to say. It's good to see. Obviously, the draft didn't go as planned for him. He's projected to be a top 5 pick by basically everyone, and obviously, falls to the second round. Girlfriend breaks up with him, or whatever that relationship comes to a close, and now the boy's balling. So shout out Will Levis. It'll be fun to see how he progresses. But with that, we're gonna head over to Germany and get things started for these predictions. And what a game the Germans are being treated to. I'm almost upset that he put such a good game over there. Dolphins, Chiefs, especially a Chiefs home game, like Robin Arrowhead of another home game. That's tough. But it's a hell of a game. Chiefs obviously coming off a weird loss to the Broncos. I mean, not trying to make excuses. Mahomes, I guess, was dealing with the flu though the day before. But Denver's look good. Their defense has turned it around somehow after getting 70 pieced by the team Kansas City is playing. So maybe that doesn't bode well for the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill, I mean, looks like the best player in the world right now. Your thoughts on this one? The Dolphins, obviously, it's a huge game for them. They still haven't had that signature win yet this season.
Yeah, I'll just start out with my prediction. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs here. Like, I think last week was, they weren't at their best. Mahomes was sick. They probably were looking forward a little bit to this week. Probably weren't, drawing up any great plays for, important situations against the Broncos because they didn't think it would happen. And, that's what happens. That's why the NFL is so great. It's a week to week league. Anything can happen. But if you don't think the Chiefs are going to be pissed off and well prepared and all that against the Dolphins, who we haven't seen play a great team yet. And to be honest, it's like, I think this defense is going to get better for the Dolphins, but I don't think it's ever going to be an elite unit. And I think offensively, you just see too many turnovers from Tua. Like, they kind of got away with it against the Giants. They got away with it last week against the Patriots, but you're not going to get away with that against the Chiefs. Like, I expect Mahomes to have a masterful performance this weekend, probably put up 31 points. And even if Tua makes 3 great plays, puts up 28 points, but throws a pick and, a pick 6 or something like that, or a pick that sets up the Chiefs to score, that could be the difference in this game. And I like Tua. I think he's good enough, but when you're good enough and you're making more mistakes than the guys who are great, it really, really hinders your team. And I think that could be argued as a big reason why the Dolphins necessarily haven't won a big game yet. Obviously they haven't had a ton of big games. It's really just been the Eagles and the Bills, but those have been their 2 worst performances against the two best teams they've played. So we'll see if that trend continues this week. Yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs too. I never really like betting against the Chiefs, especially coming off a loss. I just feel like Mahomes never loses 2 in a row. Like you said, I think they'll be more themselves this week. Felt like last week. I mean, they were in Denver, I believe, or were they home?
It was in Denver.
Yeah, in Denver, which is, I'm not trying to make excuses for Mahomes, but that's never great dealing with the flu. So I think they'll be able to kind of figure things out this week. It's rare to see Pat Mahomes really have 2 really bad games in a row. So I think they'll get it done. I think the Dolphins are, they're trending right. Jalen Ramsey coming back, I think, is huge for them. And look, this team still has got as good of a shot to win the AFC as arguably any team up there. This is more just so I think the Chiefs are just. I think they're going to come out firing all cylinders and just find a way to win this game no matter what. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I think this is a big game for AFC standings for just for the Dolphins' confidence too. I mean, if they could pull this off, that'd be a huge win for them. So, um, gives you a reason to wake up nice and early on a Sunday morning. But great game, Dolphins Chiefs. Both of us picking the Chiefs probably doesn't bode well
I
for
was
them,
gonna
but it
say.
is what it is. Yeah. Moving along, Vikings Falcons. Obviously, super sad. Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles. going to be out for the season. We think maybe he makes an Aaron Rodgers, even speedier recovery than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, maybe Kirk defies the laws of science. They trade for Josh Dobbs this week. I don't think he's starting. I think they're starting Clayton Tune, the rookie. But huge loss. I mean, this team was finally, they had a rough
Ooh,
start, but they were figuring out.
wait,
They got back to
they're
500.
starting. They're starting Hall, right?
Oh, is Clayton Tune the Arizona guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah. I
is.
was okay. Yeah, sorry.
Is
Continue.
it Derek Hall or am
No,
I don't even know.
no. That's the Phillies guy. It's Jaron. Yeah, Jaron Hall.
We're gonna pretend like I knew that the whole time. Maybe I'll edit that out. Jaron Hall. So Jaron Hall starting for the Vikings. Yeah, we'll just go right into predictions. What do you think the Rook gets his first career win or no?
Um, no. I mean, we got Heineke starting, right?
Is it
So
has it confirmed? Did
yeah,
he
I'm pretty sure
confirm
they
that today?
announced Heineke as the starter.
Wow.
So that's a crazy world we live in. But like, I just have a weird feeling Heineke's gonna come out hot here. And the Vikings defense has been like, surprisingly like solid this year, like we've kind of talked about. But I think with this group of playmakers and Bijan back and healthy, I just have a feeling this is a good week for the Falcons. I'm going with the Falcons. What about you?
It's tough picking a kid who's never played before. Jefferson out, obviously. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Falcons too. I think, Heineke, we've seen what he can do. He can win you football games. He's a solid quarterback. Obviously nothing special, but I think it's gonna be this offense, they've got the weapons like we've talked about all year. And, Drake London's kind of started to produce more and more. They gotta get Bijan on the ball more. I mean, it's ridiculous how little they're using him at this point. I don't really understand it, but that's Arthur Smith in this offense for you. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I'll go with the Falcons. I mean, rookie quarterback who, it's not like this guy's like a first round pick or anything. Not that he can't be good, but coming out in your first start and balling out feels kind of unlikely. So I'm gonna go with not the Vikings, the Falcons as well. Oh, what a treat! The Bears and the
Oh
Saints
man.
going head to head. It's still gonna be Tyler Badgett in this one. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Maybe not. It could be Bajan. I don't know. All these freaking random ass quarterbacks starting in the NFL. I mean, what the hell has happened? Honestly, like holy cow. Um, yeah, I'll start us off. I'm gonna go with the Saints here. I think what is their record at this point? 4-4,
Going
three and
for
4-4. Yeah, I mean, Derek Carr kind of is what he is at this point. Kamara though has looked incredible since he's been back. Taysom Hill, they've been using him more and more, and I've been eating my words week after week. So I was wrong. The Saints needed more Taysom Hill. They got more Taysom Hill, a little more electric now on the offensive side. Um, but I think this defense also will just kind of take care of business. I think Marshawn Lattimore, obviously one of the better corners in the league, against DJ Moore. That'll be a fun matchup. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Saints. What about you?
I guess I'm going with the Saints. I don't want to pick them, but like their offense did look a lot better. Carr probably had his best game of the year, and like you said, with the trend of us eating our words, I've kind of hated on Derek Carr a little bit, but
That's
he
still
did.
warranted though. He's been terrible this
Yeah,
year.
he's been terrible, but he did play better this week. And like you said, the Taysom Hill thing is kind of working. Kamara looks back, which I didn't really expect, but good for him. And they have a good group of receivers as long as Michael Thomas stays healthy. But even then, it's like Olave's really good, and Rashid
Yeah,
Shaheed actually, like, that dude can play.
he's a
Like,
baller, bro. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, just one of those guys who's just like a superior athlete and really just a really skilled football player and just kind of fell under the radar. I don't know if he was like an FCS or a D2 guy, but he wasn't like a Power 5 school guy. And it's just great scouting by the Saints, and they found a real player there. Um, so I guess I'll go with them. They just have more firepower. Bajent looks like he's at least like an NFL backup, but this Bears team is so bad it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, I guess they traded for Montez Sweat, which like, woo.
Oh
I
yeah, I
mean,
forgot it was the trade deadline.
yeah. But he probably doesn't move the needle for their defense, especially not like this week necessarily. I don't hate the move, like I kind of implied a little bit, but like, they're
It's a
gonna have
weird
to pay
trade.
him a ton, and they probably could have paid him in free agency and giving up another top 35 pick after like that went so horribly last year in a very similar type of trade. It's just I don't know. It's not the best move, but I don't think it's the worst because you're guaranteeing a good player, I guess, which this defense just so desperately needs and this team in general. But like I said, not necessarily the biggest impact this week, just because I don't think he's going to play too much. But I'll go with the Saints. They're at home, and you know they're probably better than the Bears. So
Yeah.
moving on, we want to do Rams Packers, not the most exciting game. Another game where it's like, is the quarterback gonna play? Stafford didn't practice again, but you get the sense that he's gonna do everything to play just because of how bad this team needs him. I'm gonna need you to look up who they just signed at backup quarterback for me because I don't know who
Yeah.
it is, but it's a great name. It's something hilarious.
Let me see. Rams backup
Um,
quarterback.
and then the Packers are pretty horrible too. So this isn't the most exciting matchup, but yeah.
I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see. I mean, they have Ripien.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
Dresser win.
That's what it is. That I was like, there's no
The
way that guy's
names, man.
real.
What the hell? The
Um,
freaking names on this team are awesome.
yeah, so yeah, just used. Um, so if we see him out there, it's not gonna be good. But the Packers have also looked like one of the worst teams in football. So I don't know who to pick here. I'm gonna take the injury caveat excuse because I really don't know. I'm gonna say Stafford if Rams if Stafford plays and Packers if he doesn't, but I'm not super confident either way.
I'm gonna pick the Rams no matter what. The Packers suck. I mean, this is
That's
Jordan Love is terrible. Like he's
yeah.
not good at all. Yeah, he's terrible. So they're screwed. They're not screwed. Well, they just are. They're gonna have to rebuild. I mean, they're gonna have to tear it all down, which they needed to do anyway. I mean, they were in salary purgatory for like the last few years. Like they just need to tear it all down, new quarterback, rebuild. Um, you know, just tear it down, tear it
Yeah.
all down. Trade Bakhtiari, trade Jair if you can. They just extended Rashawn Gary, which I guess is a good deal.
You probably keep here. He's young enough
Yeah,
to
you
keep.
probably keep Jair too, if we're being honest. I mean, I'm kind of just yapping at this point, but no, Jordan Love is not good. I just did. We were talking about it off air earlier. Like they got to get. I know Aaron Jones is still dealing with his hamstring or whatever, but like they got to get this man the ball. Like he's your best offensive player by far. You look at what he did week one in like 11 touches. He had like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns or something crazy. Like get this guy the ball. I'm like I don't know. I'm done talking about this game honestly. The Rams. I mean, they're just Rams got good receivers at the end of the day. Like this team is they could compete for a playoff spot if Matt Stafford is healthy. Like they they can. They're probably not. We've seen them lose to the teams that are better than them, but they're very playing close games and beat the teams that they're kind of in the middle of the pack. Slash, I don't even know what I'm saying. We're gonna move on. I'm gonna pick the Rams.
Fair enough.
Another terrible game. Commanders at Patriots. Good lord. The Commanders obviously coming off trading Chase Young and Montez Sweat, so signaling a big rebuild coming to Washington. You got to expect Ron Rivera is getting fired, um, rightfully so. Honestly, I mean, love the story with Ron Rivera. Happy he made it through cancer, but just has not put up any results whatsoever with that Washington team. Uh, New England obviously they lost last week to Miami, I believe. Yeah, they lost by 2 touchdowns, so weren't able to build momentum off that Buffalo game. Um, Kind of a weird one. What do you think on this one?
I actually this is like the third time that we've been talking about a bad game and I've been weirdly confident in the Patriots, but I'm gonna it's gonna happen again. I think the Washington defense got shredded, obviously by a much better offense. You bless you. Sorry, I was looking up and
No, I'm just cough. I got it's a cough, not a
okay,
sneeze.
sorry.
Thank you though.
Um, and then so I just think this defense is really bad now, and their offense is really week to week. They looked great last week against Philly, but I just think this Patriots defense is gonna have some tricks up their sleeve. Howell takes too many sacks, and that feels like a recipe for disaster against Belichick coach teams. So I lean Patriots here. I feel weirdly confident, but I shouldn't.
Mhm.
What about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Patriots too. You know, Commanders like Sam Howell, I didn't even. I knew it was a close game. I didn't realize he threw for like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like that dude just shines against the Eagles, and he
Yep.
is the anti Dak Prescott, I guess you could say. I don't know, but yeah, Patriots like they're bad, but this is the game that they should win at home. Like this is like just feels like their bread and butter. Obviously, Kendrick Bourne going down with the torn ACL sucks. He was, having some really good games for them. So that receiver room just getting weaker and weaker. I forget they have Juju there, right? That's
Yep.
crazy. That is so weird. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Regardless, I think they'll win this game. Commanders are just not that good. I don't feel like, but you never know. It is the NFL. Um, Moving along to, I lost track of the games here. Do you have them pulled up?
Yeah. Seahawks,
Yeah.
Ravens.
Ooh, so first real good game this week.
Yeah, it feels like all the teams playing are like pretty even. Like
Yeah,
there's any huge favorites really, and it's like there are some
it's either
bad
a
games
great
between.
game or a
Yeah,
terrible game.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But I'm looking forward to the Seahawks Ravens game. I think the Ravens defense has almost been like the story here, just because like their talent isn't necessarily the best. Like they have some no-name starters, like Rocky Yassin is playing really well for them as an outside corner, kind of a no-name guy there.
Colts legend.
Yeah, Colts legend. I think they're playing something Mollett in the slot, and like he's been really good. And then their secondary, Geno Stone has 5 interceptions. No one knows who that guy is. I don't really know much about him other than he went to Iowa. Um, and then the middle of the defense is really talented. You have Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. They've played really well. And then the pass rush has been really good too. And then Lamar, has had some off weeks and they've had some troubles with drops and stuff like that. But ultimately, this offense has been pretty good, at least
Yeah,
good enough. And you still have Lamar, and like I'm really liking how the Ravens are looking. Seahawks, they another trade deadline team. They traded like a second and a fifth for Leonard Williams, which I think is fair value. They really needed help on the interior, but probably like a little bit more than I would have expected him to go for, even if I
yeah,
don't think it was too much value. Um, but besides that, like this defense has been pretty good in run defense this year and not great in the pass defense. Gino has made some mistakes, but he's still I think he's still pretty good overall. So I don't know. The Seahawks are a bit of a weird team. They're 5-2, and it doesn't feel like they've necessarily played their best football, which means they could kind of go either way from here. Um, I'm gonna go with the Ravens, but I think this is gonna be a great game, to be honest.
yeah. I'm gonna go with the Ravens too. They've just been playing really well. Lamar's playing great. That defense, like you said, has been excellent. Dust Bus rushing for 3 touchdowns last week. Mark Andrews had a great season. So yeah, the Ravens have exceeded my expectations this year. From being honest, the defense has played really well, and both sides of the ball they've been excellent. So, yeah, I'm gonna pick them. I think the Seahawks are good. I think the Leonard Williams move, like you said, good move. Frank Clark they re-signed, or I guess he played for them a while ago, but
Yeah.
brought him back. So they're making moves to improve that D line, which I think is great. Um, that receiving core is electric. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba finally feels like they're starting to get him involved a little bit more, which is great to see. Still feel like there's room for him to grow, but obviously he's still a rookie. He'll probably kind of see an exceeded role as Lockett starts to kind of phase out down the road. But yeah, really good game, like you said. I do think the Ravens have the edge. I think they're at home, I believe, too.
Yeah.
So yeah, um, I'll go with the Ravens, but I think it'll be a pretty close game.
Yeah. Um, Moving on, Bucks Texans. This is, I guess, two middle tier teams, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, every time we talk about the Texans, I just talk about how much I like Stroud and how excited I am. But I'm gonna keep doing it because I mean, they were on bye last week, so I can't talk about last week, but I think he's
No,
gonna
didn't they
be.
play? They played Carolina. They lost.
Oh, they lost to Carolina. I'm stupid. They were on bye the week before.
Yeah,
Not CJ Stroud's best game, but
yeah,
I still think he's done just an incredible job. I think honestly, like I'm probably ranking him over like a Purdy at this point. I'm probably ranking him over maybe Tua. I That might be crazy.
Whoa, that's crazy. Yeah,
That
I
might
don't.
be
That
crazy.
is wild. I think that's a
Um,
bit nuts.
but yeah, I really like Stroud. I just think like his problem solving and his accuracy has just been incredible. I guess I won't go too far with my Stroud takes here. But I think he's gonna be really good. So I'm gonna go with the Texans here, but the Bucs defense is weird because it feels like some weeks they just like completely dominate and keep them in games, and then some weeks like the Falcons pass it all over them. So I don't really know exactly what to expect, but I just feel like it's going to be a big Stroud bounce back week, and the Bucs have really lost on their steam on offense. Baker's kind of gone back to looking a bit like a Carson Wentz type, where he just can't keep his head up against the rush, like can't keep looking downfield and takes too many sacks. And I think he's still fine. Like it is what it is. He didn't invest a ton in him, but he's just not the solution ultimately. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with the Texans here.
I'll go with the Bucks to spice things up. I think we might be seeing the Texans kind of start to downturn a little bit. They
Definitely.
obviously kind of exceeded expectations at the start. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this team kind of start losing most of the games the rest of the way. They're a great young team. Stroud's exceeded everyone's expectations, I think. Nico Collins has been great. Tank Dell's shown flashes. Um, the only real disappointment I feel like on this team has been Dameon Pierce, which I don't even know if you can blame him fully because that offensive line is so terrible.
Yeah.
So I think the future's bright. I just think talent wise, they're just not there yet. So I'll pick the Bucks. I mean, I think what are the Bucks at? 3-4, 4-4, something like that,
Something like that.
around there. 3-4, yeah. So big week for them if they want to try to fight for the playoffs, fight for that division title. Um, so I think they get it done. I think Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they've been having solid years. Rashad White's picked it up recently too. They've been using him more more in the passing game, which I think is smart. So yeah, I'll go with the Bucks here. But it'll be interesting to see. Last week was rough for Stroud, so it'll be interesting to see how he kind of bounces back from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving along, Cardinals at Browns. It's going to be Clayton Tune for this one. That's what the team that Clayton Tune is starting for. Unclear who the Browns will be starting at this time. Deshaun, I think, is logged back-to-back limiteds, and I think PJ Tucker's slated still to be the number 2. They had a really close game against Seattle last week that they lost at the last second. That would have been so big for them, 5-2. I mean, it's a tough loss. I do think they bounce back this week against Arizona and get the job done, though. I just think that defense is too good for a rookie. Clayton Tune's a rookie, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah,
Yeah.
rookie quarterback with the weapons are not terrible there, but this team is like we've kind of talked about the last few weeks. Like they were playing good, they were playing with some fire the first few weeks, and now it's what we expected, like the worst team in the NFL. So I would expect this Cleveland team to kind of wreak havoc on this poor kid. So yeah, I'll go with the Browns. No matter who they're starting at QB, I think they'll figure it out no matter what.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm not picking them, but I do have a feeling that they like weirdly keep it close again. Like they're gonna like I think the Cardinals, their deal this season is they're gonna play a good game or win upset a team or whatever, play a good team close, and then go back to being really bad for a few weeks, and then everyone's like, oh, they suck again, and then they do that. I think that's kind of the trend. So I think that could happen at some point again. But like you said, like this Browns defense is so good. And going up against a rookie making his first start and not a particularly good one at that, it just seems like a recipe for like a 26-3 type game. So it almost doesn't matter who's at quarterback for the Browns. Like I don't trust either of them, to be honest. I don't think either of them are good, but they both, have some athleticism, can make some plays. I mean, it's just sad. Like PJ Walker is like, he's a guy who clearly does not have the physical talent to be an NFL starter, but he's doing everything he can, and he's turning himself into probably the 50th best quarterback in the NFL, about a mid-tier backup. And it's like, why is that the same as what you expect from Deshaun Watson? I mean, that's just like,
Oh,
that's who Deshaun Watson is. He just doesn't seem as quick or as like have as much of an arm, and he just isn't just has lost it, and it sucks to see because this Browns team is so talented, and you almost wonder, it's like, what do they even do going forward, because you have to try to get off of it, but you can't. And
they're yeah,
yeah, they're fucked. I don't
fully
know.
fully
Even know.
guaranteed deal, right? It's
Yeah,
fully
it's fully
guaranteed.
guaranteed. I don't know. I don't know what you do, because if you tried to trade him, you literally wouldn't be able to field a football team the next year, because it would be a $200 million dead cap hit, I'm pretty sure. So
They're screwed. They're
yeah,
absolutely screwed.
yeah, so I mean, what a mistake that's looking to be, even though they're like pretty good. It's just yeah. So we'll see what happens going forward. But yeah, I'm going with the Browns here.
Be very interesting to see, obviously, with Deshaun. I mean, look, the last game he was healthy against Tennessee, he looked pretty good. Obviously, the Colts game, I mean, I think he's still hurt, but I don't know. Who freaking knows with Deshaun at this point? Um, Colts at Panthers. Panthers picked up their first win of Bryce Young's career. That was good to see. Colts they've been, they're 3-5, but they've been playing good offensively. I mean, they put up last every game this season, they've scored more than 20 points, which is pretty impressive. I mean, no one really thought this offense was going to be very special. I think that just shows what a job change
Steichen. Yeah,
Steichen's
yeah, yeah.
doing.
There you go.
Really good job. I mean, JT Zach Moss 1-2 punch is lethal, and Michael Pittman, Josh Downs both having a good year. So shout out to the Colts, and that's who I'm going to pick in this one. I think offensively they're just going to be too much for Carolina. They've played a lot of shootout football this year, which is kind of crazy to say, but and Gardner with the legs has been doing. I mean, Gardner Minshew, man, he's been balling out, so good for him. I'm going to pick the Colts. I just think Panthers are, I'm happy they got the win, but I think the Colts right now are just better offensively, and I don't think the Panthers can go blow for blow like that.
Yeah. Very rare I made a good upset pick here. I did pick the Panthers last week, and not even a huge upset, but I did see, some potential. But I think the Panthers, like you said, like they just don't have much. And the Colts have shown that they can really put points on you, and this Panthers defense hasn't been good. So I expect that to be the big issue here is that the Panthers can't really stop the Colts. And like you said, Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, great 1-2 punch, great seasons from Pittman and Downs looks like he's going to be a great slot guy for the next 8 to 10 years. Like
Yeah.
just a guy I think the NFL like overthought. Like I think the NFL tends to do this where they see guys that are really good at maybe a less valuable position and maybe don't have the physical upside to be one of these, freaks. But like Josh Downs is just like, what was the world where he wasn't going to be a really good slot receiver? Like you
Yeah.
just see it with him. Like even if you weren't familiar with him coming out of college, you watch him play. It's like, how did NFL teams evaluate this guy and not think this is a top 60 pick? I just don't get it. Like same thing with Brian Branch. Like that guy's just so good at football. Like it doesn't matter that he plays in the slot. Like he makes such an impact, and like the
Yep.
amount of 3 receiver sets you see nowadays, that's basically a starter. Like I give me a great nickel corner over a great second linebacker any day of the week. Like, people talk about, a second linebacker like it's one of the big positions on a defense, but no one talks about the slot corner like it's important. But it's really just about the guy you have there. If you have 2 great linebackers, then they're going to be great. If you have a great linebacker and a great slot corner, they're going to be great. Like you just got to find great players. And I think this is a really crazy tangent I've gone on here. Like we started with Josh Downs and the Colts, but this is like, I just think teams need to just draft the best players and forget
Yep.
about athleticism sometimes. Like in the first round, you kind of want both the athleticism and the talent. But I think day 2, you kind of want to, you want to just get talented players in your building. And then day 3, you want to think more about athletes that you can develop. But what do I know? I'm just a 19-year-old kid. So I'm sure NFL front offices are much better at this than I would be. I'm not trying to, say like these guys are dumb. I like Josh Downs and think he was a really safe pick.
Yeah. I agree. Pick Aiden Hutchinson, not Trayvon Walker, I think is
Yeah.
a perfect way to put it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, moving right along. Big news out of this next game, Giants Raiders. Obviously, Raiders clean house. Mike McDaniel's, GM Dave Ziegler, I think is how you pronounce it. They fired an offensive coordinator too, so it is a new slate in Las Vegas, which is great. Jimmy G's on the bench. Aiden O'Connell's looks like he might go the rest of the way. So, real commitment from Mark Davis, and that a fresh start is coming. You got to think Devontae Adams gets traded this offseason. I think we're about to see a total teardown for this Vegas team. On the flip side, you got the Giants who have somehow choked to the Jets last week. Zach Wilson, man, 24 seconds. That's all the boy needs. But I think it's Danny Dimes. I think he's back this week, if
I
I'm
think
not
so.
mistaken. So we'll see the return to Mr. Dimes against a really bad Vegas Raiders team. So what do you think with this one?
I literally have one reason why I'm picking the Raiders, and I don't care. It's because they have an interim coach in their first game, and teams always seem to win that first game with an interim coach. And I bet they, 90% of the time they just pick a position coach that the guys really like, or a special teams coordinator that the guys really like, whatever. And these guys are going to play really freaking hard and show that, try to give this guy an opportunity to be a head coach in the league. And like, I, I don't think the talent difference here is very much. I think you could argue, I guess the Raiders have more because they have more star power.
Yeah.
The Giants maybe have some more solid start, whatever. I don't care. I think this is a very even matchup. Probably the advantage at quarterback to the Giants, which is crazy to say because it's Daniel freaking Jones. But I'm
The
gonna go with the
Dimer,
Raiders.
baby. Danny
Yeah.
Dimes. Danny Dimes.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Giants, man. Why not? Saquon, I think he's been having to bear the load, and you got to hope. He's been good. I mean, look, he was put in a really tough spot last week where they were only running the ball, and he did his best. But Darren Waller out for this game. I think he's gonna be out for a few weeks. Just remember that. But Jalen Hyatt's looked pretty good. That defense I think is the best unit though in this game, and I think that's why I'm picking the Giants. They've really turned it on these last few weeks. They gave the Jets a ton of trouble, obviously, which sometimes isn't hard to do. But the week before they get Buffalo. I think the week before it was Buffalo. Yeah, Buffalo really struggled. So I think Aiden O'Connell, obviously,
They had
like
the
they said, this
Commanders too, who they did well against.
right. Yes, they beat the Commanders too. So that was the game in between. Yeah, I felt like there was one. So they've been playing really well for 3 weeks now. I think that continues against Aiden O'Connell. Obviously, you got the star power of the Raiders, but I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Giants here. I think that defense is the best unit in this game, so I'm gonna pick them. But I think Max Crosby could maybe set the sack record for most sacks in the game this week,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, what a freaking beast that guy is. I love
He
Max
is
Crosby.
double X on the name too. Like it's just like baller, man. I don't
Yeah.
know. He just looks cool with all the tats. Like
Yep.
he's a stud. He's a stud at the end of the day. All right, Dev. Cowboys Eagles, big game. Is this is the first time these two teams have played this year, I believe.
Yeah.
Huge game for the Cowboys. I mean, this is a real. They need this one. They need to prove themselves. Eagles 7-1 now. Obviously, they're cruising along. AJ Brown is a stud. I mean, wow, is that guy such a good player? I think we know who you're picking in this one, but tell me your official thoughts on why the Eagles will beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, I guess this is shaping up to be one of the best games of the year. And I think I'm gonna go with the Eagles because I think the Cowboys defense has just really not looked the same on the road. And I think you get a great performance from this Cowboys defense. It's hard to beat them, especially if their offense is playing well. I mean, that's true with a lot of teams, but they're one of these teams that when they're at their best, they're almost unbeatable in a way that it almost doesn't even feel like the Eagles have played at that unbeatable level yet this year. A lot of close games. But I just think you look at the matchups and it's like when they had, Diggs and Gilmore, it felt a lot better going up against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. But now it's like I was talking to my dad about it. It's like theoretically, say Gilmore does this great job on AJ Brown, limits him to 4 catches. Like what's happening with Smith? Like you got Deron Bland, who's like not a good coverage player. He gets a lot of interceptions. He has a good nose for the football. I call him baby Diggs. Like he plays the same way where he's very risky, but he can get beat in coverage a lot. And I just don't think that's a good matchup for him or whoever else they try to put on Devontae Smith and Goddard. And like I said, I don't think this Cowboys team is as good defensively on the road. I think they're not as good offensively on the road. I think Dak might have a tough day. I think this offense is still really like simple and might be the type of thing the Eagles defense is able to capitalize on. So I feel weirdly confident in the Eagles, although this is one of those high stress matchups that feels like a playoff game. And yeah, so I'm excited and not excited because I know I'm not going to be in good mood if the Cowboys win. I'm just excited for good football. There's like
Yeah.
we kind of touched on it. There's some bad games, but then you've got Chiefs, Dolphins, Ravens, Seahawks. We've talked about this game we're talking about now, and then the Sunday night game, which we'll get into in a second. Like some some really good matchups this week. So I'm excited for that. I'm going with the Eagles. And what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Eagles too. I just don't. AJ Brown right now, he's just unstoppable at the end of the day. And I think this Eagles offense, DeAndre Swift's been playing well. Devonta Smith looked great. Goddard, you got like there's just so many weapons on that offensive side. Obviously, the tush push was stopped last week by the Commanders. So
Yep.
the Washington Commanders, man, they figured it out. But uh, yeah, they're just playing too well. And I think defensively, they've got obviously a lot of stars. And for Dallas, like it just feels like the big game choke, the big game jitters is just what this team is accustomed to. The one thing I will say, CeeDee Lamb, he's turning it on. They're getting him the ball, which is huge. And for me, the X factor in this game for Dallas is Tony Pollard. Like he just is not. They've not been using him enough. I think he's hasn't been in the end zone since week 1, if I'm not mistaken, which is so different from what was going on last year. So my my plea is like get Tony Pollard the ball, see what happens because that whole offense, like if Tony Pollard is not balling out, like that's not a good offense at the end of the day. Like CD is still great, but I guess you got Cooks and Gallup, but like the whole offense was like, hey, we got to, this team has been built on the run the last few years, and it's like if you lose that aspect, like it's just not that good of an offense at the end of the day. So get Tony Pollard more involved, get this guy in the end zone, get the ball in his hands, and see what happens. I think he's the X factor. I think if he has a huge game, well, obviously if he has a huge game, it gives Dallas a better chance. But I think you got to look to him as kind of the like. I don't think CD having a big game is good enough to win. I think Tony Pollard is a key. Chew some clock on the ground, keep the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands, and I think that's your path to victory rather than through the air. So we'll see. I think it's gonna be a great game, like you said. Um, I'm happy it's 320, 325, or at 325 Central, I guess, 425. So not a prime time, but it still feels like a prime time essentially. So super excited. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Eagles, like you said.
Yeah, fair enough. Night game. All right, this is a fun one too. It feels like the Bengals are back. Feels like
Yeah.
Burrow is fully back and healthy. We saw that great play, like where he stiff armed Bosa, and I saw that and I was just like, yep, okay, Burrow's back. I have him in one of my fantasy leagues, and I was like, all right, got my quarterback for the rest of the year. I'm good here. So I'm gonna, yeah, I think the Bengals are just like, I like honestly, I don't know how many games they're gonna lose the rest of the year. I think this Bengals team is like really pissed off. They're back right now. I just think this is gonna be really similar to last year where they really get going. And I don't know. I think they're gonna be able to force Allen into some mistakes, and I don't know. I just have this overwhelming confidence in the Bengals that I don't really have in the Bills. It feels like the Bengals show up when they need to, and the Bengals show up when they need to, and the Bills don't.
Yeah.
Um, and this is one of those big games for seeding, and even though the Bengals are looking really good, they still need this win for playoffs just because of how competitive the AFC and AFC North is and where the record's at. They really need every win they can get. So I expect them to come out with their hair on fire and just win a classic against the Bills. What about you?
It's gonna be a great game. I'm gonna go with the Bengals as well. Partly because I want the Bills to lose for the Jets division odds, but at the end of the day, um, if we're being honest, this Bills team hasn't looked great since that Dolphins game. Like they've had 4 kind of mediocre. I think they're 2-2. Maybe they're 3-1. I think they're 2-2 in that stretch. I know they lost to what you call it. Yeah, they lost to New England and they lost to Jacksonville. So they are 2-2 in their last 4. They've played very close football, not good. Um, I don't know. I think this is the same old Bills team that we've seen the last few years. I think the media tried to blow them up when they could after that Dolphins win, like it was the next great thing, and kind of right back to what we expect out of them. Joe Burrow, like you said, big week last week. It seems like he's finally kind of back. Jamar Chase right now looks, second to Tyreek Hill, probably the best receiver in the NFL right now, I would say. That's
Him or
healthy.
AJ?
And AJ, right? Yeah. I mean, I guess you got AJ is probably number 2. Yeah. Jamar right in that top 3. But I mean, it's just, it's fun to see the Bengals kind of back and healthy. I think they get the job done. If it was in Buffalo, I probably would pick the Bills, to be honest, in prime time. But since it's in Cincinnati, I'm gonna go with the Bengals. I just think Josh Allen is I don't know. I'm not worried about him, but like the carelessness with the football just has to stop because I don't know if this team will, and I don't know if it will stop. But it's just like it's just he's just so careless sometimes. He just uses, I mean, that arm strength is a blessing and a curse because
Yep.
at the end of the day, it forces him to feel like he can throw the ball 5,000 yards. And, sometimes that works out well. Sometimes he throws in incredible plays and makes the plays that we all know he does. But sometimes that means he takes a deep shot and it goes right to two defenders. So, he's just gotta limit those as much as he can. And I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily a key to this game. I mean, it's a key to just this team's success. But
Right.
um, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bengals at home. So probably means Bills win. But oh well.
Are,
Um,
are you back in on the Jets, man? I mean,
oh yeah.
I
I
mean,
think
I,
I'm in.
I think I'm in on the Jets, man. Like, I
Aaron
mean,
Rodgers moving around on that field.
yep.
It feels like I'm back in. I mean, that was a bad game, bad performance from them last week. Offensively, it was a disaster. I mean, they really should have lost that game. Brees Hall averaged 1.4 yards on the ground, which is not good. But look, this is a huge opportunity. I think the way we've seen MetLife on these Jets primetime games, I think is, I mean, that opening night obviously was like, oh my God, like that was one of the best atmospheres I've ever seen pregame. And obviously, 4 plays in, it was depressing. But I think MetLife's gonna be packed. I think it's gonna be a great game. But looking at the outlook of the season, like even after this week, you get the Raiders. They suck in prime time too. Oh my God, back-to-back primetime games for the Jets. Um, then it's Bills and Dolphins, which is scary. Then you go Falcons, Texans, and then you go Dolphins, Commanders. So probably beat the Commanders, Browns, Patriots. It's like half and half. Like it's half like kind of gauntlet, and then half like they should really win these games. Um, so it's going to be a big test, and I think this is a huge game. I think for them, these are the games you got to win against a team like the Chargers, who's good but they're not great. And I think the defense, obviously, as it's been, is the key for this team. You just got to limit Justin Herbert as much as you can. Austin Eckler, since the injury, has not looked great rushing the football. Obviously, had a big game receiving last week. Keenan Allen, if you can take away him, I feel pretty good about the Jets' chances. Zach Wilson has looked a lot better this season than last. I mean, that last game, the comeback was remarkable, but it's not just about, it can't be a 24-second strong performance. You got to look at the rest of the game, and he wasn't good. He wasn't great the rest of the game at all. I think he lost 2 fumbles, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think it
Um,
was too.
like he's got to be better. Like last week was not good enough. I think he knows that. Um, and this Chargers defense isn't anything special. I mean, they've got some talent, obviously, but we kind of know what they are at this point. So I think this is a huge week for the Jets. I'm going to pick them at home, prime time. I think Brees Hall has a big game. I really like seeing Garrett Wilson and Zach Wilson develop a strong connection. I mean, Garrett Wilson has really been playing well. They're finally, not finally throughout the season. I mean, obviously, I think with Rodgers it could be even more special. But we've seen how good Garrett Wilson is with Zach Wilson, even under center. So I'll go with the Jets. I think their defense pulls it off, and I think Brees Hall, the key, gets in the end zone a few times. And I don't know why. I feel like Dalvin Cook finds his way into the game script a little bit and gets maybe he rips a 40-yard touchdown for a big play in this one. I don't know. That's what the brain is saying. So Dalvin Cook anytime touchdown, I don't hate it, even though that's an awful bet.
Yeah, I mean the Chargers run defense isn't very good. I could see it. I mean, I don't know. Dalvin Cook's not very good at this point, but
He's probably more likely to be a healthy scratch at this point than a run off a 40-yard touchdown.
yeah, that's possible. Um, I'm gonna go with the Jets too.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, we both took the Eagles, we both took the Jets. So good luck to our teams this weekend. I don't have much to say on this game. I just feel like the Jets defense is gonna really play well, and obviously the best part about this Chargers team is their offense. So if they can shut down the Chargers offense, I think the Jets offense will be competent enough to put up like in the 20 to 24 point range. I
Yeah.
think that's going to be good enough if they get a turnover or two and Wilson doesn't play horribly, which he hasn't been. Well, I don't know. Like even last week, it was like he's not horrible. I guess
We're just
I
so used to it being so bad that it's like
yeah
mediocre is like, I mean, look, the Jets now, they've won 3 games in a row. Like, and the loss before that was the close loss to the Chiefs. Like, they've been in every game besides the blowout to the Cowboys. They've been within one score in their losses. So their defense keeps them in games, like you're saying.
Yeah, that's basically all I've got, to be honest, in this game. I think this defense has been great, and I'm gonna take the Jets to keep rolling here. And yeah, I guess Zach Wilson's like Taylor Heineke now, so that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool to go from most hated man in the city to Taylor Heineke. So
Yeah.
that's got to be an upgrade. That will do it for the week. Is it week
8,
9? Wow,
9, 9.
week 9. Yeah, shoot. Fantasy playoffs are creeping up, man. That's
Yeah.
scary. That is terrifying. But yeah, that will do it for everything on this week's episode of Outside the Arena. Another great week of sports. Obviously, we'll keep going with the NFL, NBA content. Talk anything that happens in the MLB offseason. Obviously, it'll probably take it a little bit for that to pick up steam. But if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. Check us out on our social medias. Those will be in the description. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, at Outside the Arena there. And yeah, we'll see you next week on Outside the Arena.